I think what we need to understand fundamentally about the Russian system of governance is that over the past decades, what Putin has created was essentially a sort of feudal system.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome to another edition of Forum 2000 Online Chats. I'm Jessica Ludwig, Director for Freedom and Democracy at the George W. Bush Institute, based in Dallas, Texas. Today, I'm joined by Rostislav Valvoda, who is Executive Director of the Prague Civil Society Center. And we're here today to discuss kleptocracy and corruption. Rostislav, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So I'd like to start off with what perhaps might be seem like a basic question, but is actually worth taking a moment to reflect on, which is, can you tell us the difference between corruption, which most people tend to understand based on experience or some idea having heard of it, and kleptocracy?
Yeah, I think kleptocracy really is a much broader problem. It is way beyond money. Especially if we speak about Russian kleptocracy, it's really, basically kleptocracy or corruption, corrupt money flows, illicit money flows. The Russian spy networks and the infrastructure that they're using, and organized crime, they all overlap, and it's that at places you can't really tell one from another. So it is a really much bigger issue that we're dealing with, and it's an issue that really is connected to our security. Just this past few days, that the Czech police, police in Czech Republic and Germany, they busted some scheme where Russian spies were trying to get some chemicals that are being used for nerve agent production, manufacturing in Russia, that are of course banned, and so they were trying to use these kind of discrete clandestine networks to actually get hold of these chemicals that they otherwise would have no chance to get into Russia, obviously. And the point is that all these corrupt schemes and some money that is being stashed here is part of this infrastructure of essentially war machine, what the Russian government is currently waging. And also, I think, in understanding the scope and scale of the problem, it's great that we now have these 1,000 plus oligarchs, largely really wealthy individuals, and all these kind of with their yachts and kind of crazily lavish lifestyles that are now under sanctions. But I think what we need to understand fundamentally about the Russian system of governance is that over the past decades, what Putin has created was essentially a sort of feudal system when any public official, be it judge, prosecutor, or whoever had some power over others, over citizens, they basically used this function, this public role, to extort money from whoever they could exert authority over. And all this money that has been over these 2 decades basically taken from Russian people in the form of bribes or whatever, that has gradually been stashed and saved in the rule of law societies like Czech Republic, like UK, like Germany, and they have used these jurisdictions simply because it's safe here, because we have the rule of law, which they don't, and so basically they are using our countries as saving boxes, and we need to do something about it.
So you just described kleptocracy really as a systemic form of corruption, where corruption and the capturing of the state's resources are then available to autocratic leaders who can use that for their own political agenda, and in Russia's case, this is helping to fund their current war in Ukraine. Could you speak a little bit more to you were describing how Russian money there's so much of it has been stolen, much of it has left the country and is being stashed in many places around the world, including in the West. Can you describe a bit more in more detail how this impacts the international financial system?
I think it has actually a huge impact on the international financial system, because it's not just about a property that's been bought and whatever, you know, market prices have gone up as a result. It's really you know, sort of they develop specific money laundering schemes and sort of and created whole networks of lawyers, travel agents, companies, what's sometimes called enablers, to basically help them station their money here. And as I said, like these people really are then and to be, you know, used for whatever Russian Secret Service operations that you know out there to whatever blow up an ammunition depot in this country or kill somebody. This is really kind of part and parcel of their operation. You can't almost tell where one sort of starts and the other finishes. This has a huge impact on us, and I believe that, you know, now that we have finally woken up to the problem, we just need to try and clean up as much as we can our financial system and our property markets from this, because it's money that's been stolen from the public, and it's, as you rightly said, is the money that's being used to finance the war in Ukraine. We just want to stop that.
Mm-hmm. So, picking up on this, what can be done to stop that? I'd like to ask you a bit more about what's already being done, particularly through investigative journalism, since the Prague Civil Society Center, as I understand, works with a lot of investigative journalists in Russia and Central Asia and parts of Eastern Europe. Could you tell us a little bit more about how investigative journalists, you know, whether it's work that you've done or work that's already being done, are able to contribute to solutions to this problem?
I think what the amazing work that's being done already by investigative journalists and especially these networks of investigative journalists, because it's really, you know, you're essentially dealing with mafia structures that are transnational, that are sort of spending lots of money to hide where they come from, where they kind of, you know, what they use as their safe havens. So it's really complex and really technical work, and for that you need collaboration of journalists in different countries all around. So I think what's amazing is like the fact that they have managed to uncover all this against all the efforts of these corrupt oligarchs and the enablers. But then, and also kind of took the courage to do that, because it's really, really dangerous. I mean, these guys are, you know, it costs them lots of money, so they can really kill for that. But I think they've done a great job in actually highlighting the problem and sort of showing the individual cases, that some of the, you know, most disgusting examples of these, you know, perversely lavish lifestyles that some of these oligarchs and their families lived. And I think that's good for the public to sort of recognize and realize the scale of the problem. And this is what the journalists are great at. I think in addition to that, you then need really activists or anti-corruption campaigners who will somehow, you know, distill from all these stories, individual stories, what the loopholes are in our system, like are able to understand the legal intricacies of various jurisdictions, and actually see what loopholes are being misused, and sort of put this on the table in policy-making circles and policy-making debate, and say, look, if we want to stop that, not just, you know, prosecute these individual cases, but also like change the system in a way that this is made impossible. This is what you need to do, and I think we need that as well, sort of in parallel to that. And thirdly, I think civil society journalists and anti-corruption campaigners can can provide great input in terms of how to bolster are sanctions against Russia that are there to punish Russia for the war that Russia is waging, and also, I believe, contribute to the reconstruction of Ukraine, of this kind of terrible damage that's been done to the country. The point is that we simply, we now have about 1.2 thousand individuals under sanctions. But as I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's great they are there. It's the wealthiest, it's the biggest individuals by and large. But where are all these, dozens or sort of thousands and dozens of thousands of all these smaller crooks, of all these, prosecutors or judges from, Permsky Krai or Khanty-Mansiysk, who do not play leading role, but at the same time they are still important part of the Putin system, and they are still those who actually carry and continue and keep supporting the power that is there, and that are using and misusing their public roles to actually pilfer the money from state budgets, but also extort the money from the public. It's these people that we need to target as well. Mm-hmm. And in that, we are speaking not 1.2 thousand people, we're speaking dozens of thousands of people, if not small hundreds, thousands of people. And I believe that this is where civil society can actually provide quite useful insights, and investigative journalists can provide quite useful insights, because they do work on investigating these corrupt individuals. Mm-hmm.
You were talking about some of the more well-known cases of kleptocracy, and of course the more well-known oligarchs you were alluding to. And of course, sort of thinking about where this money goes overseas beyond Russia's borders, where it's parked. I think there are some very well-known jurisdictions already, such as London, New York, and other traditional safe havens of dirty money. But I'm curious, does any of this money make its way into the Czech Republic?
It totally does. In fact, Czech Republic is quite popular. And to be honest, I don't even think it has to do as much with sort of our system, because, for instance, the registries in this country are quite transparent, and one of the most transparent actually in Europe. So it's quite easy to actually find out who owns what in terms of property. But I think it simply has to do with this country simply being a popular spot generally for Russian society, and Karlovy Vary, the spa resort of old Soviet times, many will remember and sort of revere. And so I think it's this that has then made the choice for many people who probably wouldn't have enough money to afford London or French Riviera, so those would then make their way here to Central Prague or Karlovy Vary, and there is lots of if you check the registers in those places, you will see a lot of names there of exactly this smaller, say, officials, not the top-notch billionaires or people whose wealth is there in the orders of billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And just as a final question, thinking about how difficult it is for investigative journalists in closed societies to do more than investigate this grand corruption and kleptocracy that's happening on such a large and international scale. It seems that there is an opportunity, perhaps, that can be considered with when that money leaves those closed jurisdictions and enters open societies, such as the Czech Republic. Can you talk about whether there are opportunities for civil society to work with law enforcement in these rule of law jurisdictions to do something more to go after stolen, ill-gotten gains?
I think there is, because generally the war in Ukraine has been a sort of wake-up call, I believe, for Europe and broadly the West. I mean, frankly, it's one wake-up call too late, in a way, I would say. But that's where we are. It's better that we have had it. And I think what it actually did is that it mobilized a lot of good and positive and creative energy in civil society, in journalistic circles, in professional NGOs, or simply just experts. People who may have been working on public procurement here. They actually realize, okay, well, we now actually have this massive problem of really having lots of corrupt Russian dirty money in this country, and we just need it takes big effort to actually clean it up. And I think there's generally an understanding that this is sort of a job for all of government, but also for this collaboration between experts from civil society, from journalism, because it really is a complex effort, and it's almost like no single institution or no single kind of organization either on government side or on civil society side, non-governmental side, doesn't actually have all the expertise you need to tackle this problem. Because to tackle this problem, you need the investigative journalists for the input of like what these schemes are. You need lawyers. You need data scientists, because this is now working with the public registries. This is big data. You need somebody to process that. You need people who understand the foreign influence operations, because, as I said, this is all part of this kind of, it's basically driven by the secret services in many situations. So you need sort of collaboration of all these, and there's just no single organization or individual that has that. So I think we now need, and we need also to support as funders, sort of some of these collaborations, practical collaborations and coalitions and networks of these people who have this job, or to sort of understand the task. Okay, we need to clean up our system from the dirty Russian money. What are the steps, and what are the priorities that we need to take on the legislative side, but also then there is something we need to advocate for the government to really prosecute, because there are some things that just need to be prosecuted. So it's really a complex problem, but I think the approach to this or the response to this should be through these coalitions and networks, because it's really very, very technical heavy, so to say. The good thing is that with how terrible the war has been, it, I think, has, as I said, really mobilized and really alerted a lot of people. And so people who would not previously bother or care about Russia at all suddenly realize, okay, we have this problem as society, and they are just willing to step in and offer their expertise and energy and drive to do that. So I'm hopeful that actually we can really move on with this problem.
Well, Rostislav, thank you for giving us reasons to be hopeful by helping us break down what can be done about this tremendous problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.